So, have you ever wondered how many features of your personality actually come from the conditioned features of childhood? Have you ever wondered, like, if I grow up and I have these different facets to my personality, certain qualities or characteristics, like being very analytical or practical, where did these things come from in the first place? Well, in this video, I am going to cover 5 major facets or characteristics of your personality that you might have just thought were your personality, but that might actually have to do so much with your conditioning from childhood as it relates to your attachment style. So I'm actually going to share these with you here in a slide, and we're going to talk a little bit about not just the traits themselves, but we're also going to discuss where these things really come from and how they tend to impact us at a high level. So if we take a look here, one of the first things you'll see is dismissive avoidants, as I just mentioned, tend to be very analytical and practical. Also, if you don't know what a dismissive avoidant attachment style is, our attachment style is like our love style, and the avoidant personalities, the ones who have dismissive avoidant attachment style, tend to have some of these crucial features here and other characteristics to their personality as well. But you'll sort of learn a little bit more about the dismissive avoidant from this video. So one of the first things is DAs tend to be very analytical and practical. And what I mean by this is that when a dismissive avoidant grows up in their childhood and there's a lack of emotional connection, there's no discussion about emotions, there's no talking about, hey, how was your day today, how are you feeling? Or if a child is growing up and they're trying to share their emotions at a young age, maybe they get criticized or shamed, almost as if they're taught or it's inferred that their emotions are weak or embarrassing or shameful, like don't be a crybaby, children should be seen and not heard. A lot of these different dynamics will cause a person to feel like the emotional self is very much rejected. And as a byproduct of coping with that reality, they will reject their own emotional self. They will try to repress those aspects of self. And so what they'll focus on instead is really the mental faculties. When we don't feel safe with our emotions, we can really polarize. And rather than having more of a well-rounded personality with our analytical side available to us, our emotional side available to us, these different facets of the whole, instead we tend to sort of splinter off and really just hone in on one aspect of the self. And so you'll see as a result of that, dismissive avoidants spend a lot of time in their mind. They spend a lot of time, thinking, analyzing, and they tend to be very practical rather than emotionally available and open. And they can be really grounded as well. And these are great traits in many ways. But the challenge is when, there's this mutually exclusive thing happening where rather than just having a really strong ability to mentally analyze and intellectually connect with people and having the capacity to emotionally bond with people and open up and form those sort of deeper rooted connections, it tends to be more of a one-way street. And again, this comes from feeling like that part of yourself is not okay, is not safe. And this brings us to point number 2 for dismissive avoidance, which is that they tend to be the lifestyle that is most disconnected from their emotions. And this means that that's going to be brought into their relationships. If they don't really know what they're feeling, they're not going to be as expressive with what they're feeling. If they feel like their emotions are kind of a scary place, then they're definitely not going to want to tap into that and really feel all the feels of falling in love or deepening a connection in a relationship. And so they can really kind of disconnect from that part of themselves. And again, they tend to see this part of themselves as almost shameful, like as if something's wrong with them when they feel. And I always joke with people about this, like these are inborn, very innate mechanisms. Like we come into the world and what do? We eat, we drink water, we sleep, we go to the bathroom, and we feel our emotions, we cry, we express. And so to cut off this very innate part of ourselves obviously can create a lot of long-term dysfunction. This brings me to point number 3, which is dismissive avoidants tend to be very commitment fearing. And this can be with any large commitment, but obviously tends to be the most with large commitments that have an emotional basis, sort of leapfrogging off of this big theme here. So the more that a dismissive avoidant is afraid of feeling their emotions, the less they're going to want to commit to or involve themselves in things that make them have to feel. So we'll see generally dismissive avoidance in romantic relationships. They tend to, as soon as somebody's sort of connecting with them and deepening a bond with them, they tend to get cold feet. It's a very common coping mechanism or protective mechanism, again, because they've essentially been conditioned by their environment to think and feel that their emotions are unsafe. It's almost like the emotion they feel is fear of their own emotions. So you'll see a lot of that. By the way, as I'm going through this, if you recognize yourself as a dismissive avoidant attachment style and you're a loved one of a DA and you want to understand a little bit more about this love style, we have a full in-depth course on reprogramming the dismissive avoidant love style and what all the characteristics are, what all the pain points and challenges are, and how to actually recondition these things, because true healing has to involve reconditioning the subconscious mind in order for it to work. And so the whole course focuses in on that, and we guarantee your first major breakthrough in 7 days. You can actually check out that course for 14 days for free right now, because for the month of February, we are doing, for Valentine's Day month, just all 14-day free trials to our courses. So you can check that out down below. And if you don't feel at the end of literally 7 days that you had a major breakthrough from diving into that course, then we guarantee money back, because we are so confident that these courses are very deep and transformational and will bring a lot of insight and awareness. So that is point number 3. Point number 4 is dismissive avoidants tend to get into these sort of security oriented dynamics. I'll often see dismissive avoidants get into a job and then like not leave that job for 40, 50 years. They can, once they do connect to somebody in a relationship, they can often not like leaving the relationship. Even if they're like in the relationship and they're not that emotionally available to somebody, they still generally like the security of longer relationships. And so can kind of like fear letting go or letting things drift off once they've actually been with somebody for quite some time. That won't be the way it is at the beginning. And, at the beginning of relationships, if a dismissive avoidant has been alone for a long time, they can be so security oriented that they don't want to date somebody because they're afraid of it disrupting their routine or their lives. So they can really like hold on to their security very tightly that way. And then number 5, dismissive avoidants tend to really dislike change. And you'll see this sort of going hand in hand with the security orientation, but dismissive avoidants also really like comfort. They want that sense of like comfort in a relationship, comfort in their home, comfort in their routine, comfort in their patterns, comfort in staying in the same place. So you'll generally see dismissive avoidants be very like adverse to change, even things like traveling, trying big new things, novelty in their lives, changing up work patterns or routines. All of those changes tend to be things that dismissive avoidants very much do not like. So anyways, I hope this makes sense to you and was interesting. And again, if you want to learn more about dismissive avoidant as a love style and all the different love styles or attachment styles that exist, check out that link below. It is all free for 14 days. You can do a deep dive into many different courses in there. And if you don't have a breakthrough at the end of that 7 days, then we have a full money back guarantee. So check it out if you're interested, and thank you for watching. I will see you in future videos. And if you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing to the channel.